If I'm being completely honest, I've been struggling a bit this last week. I feel like I have this natural tendency towards feeling things a lot more and being sensitive to things a bit more than other people. And, I've noticed that since a young age, I was kind of questioning things, finding out why we do things, like, was there any meaning or purpose to anything? And that led me down this rabbit hole, be careful of the questions you ask because you might not like the answers. And basically, after trying to find a lot of answers from other people, trying to find out what it was, just based on my own kind of discovery, spending time with myself and just letting it kind of sink in, I'd found that there wasn't really an answer. We're born here, we don't know where the fuck that comes from, how our consciousness is made. We know that we're definitely going to die. We don't know where the universe came from, just like our birth. We don't know where it came from, how it came, it just kind of happened. And we also don't know what's exactly going to happen in the future, but we do know we're going to die. Probably this planet and everything else is going to die or fade away. And for me, who likes to think about that big picture and really think about the impacts, it just really drags me down. And sometimes, yesterday when I went on a walk after work, just because I felt like I needed it, I hadn't been waking up early because last week I cut open my finger on Tuesday and then I couldn't do any gym work or anything. I just had to get through work, bandaged it, had painkillers because I cut it right underneath. I don't want to show it too much because you might not like seeing cuts, but it's a lot better now. I cut it right underneath the nail and I woke up and it was just really painful, and I hate taking painkillers, but my sleep was more important than taking the painkillers, so I took it and I had to go to work the next day. But also I mentioned my hip in the last video and I was like, oh yeah, I gave it a rest. It was kind of sore in some scenarios, some positions, but overall it was pretty good. So I was like, oh, I can play futsal on Thursday. My thumb's sore, so I can't really work out. I don't want to lift weights or pull on something and then rip it open again. And I don't want to just work out my right side because I could have done my right side, but my left side needs to be developed more than my right because I'm about balance and symmetry as well. Because we have a natural tendency to favor one side, and if that keeps happening, then our bodies is going to kind of distort that way, and we're going to get more injuries as a result of that, which is actually ties on to the hip thing, because I actually went to the osteo this morning, so I heard it again after I went to Thursday and it got really bad, and then on Friday it just swole up and I was limping around. It would just swell up so much. But luckily it was alright enough to walk on and I could kind of get through, and then I got to the osteo this morning. And it kind of frustrates me when I go to the osteo because it's there's all these little things that I wouldn't think of. I was alright, what do I need to do to save this right side of my leg? Where it was actually oh, this left side of your hip is kind of caving in here because you have a weakness down at your foot. It's kind of rolling in, it's going flat-footed, and that kind of ties up to this tibialis posterior, which comes up the top of the side of your shin here, which is somewhere where I'd had a lot of pain, which I deemed the calf, but it wasn't deep enough. It's too deep for me to kind of get with the foam roller, which is a part of my routine warm-up before soccer. And so as a result of flat-footed, hip going in, my right leg was taking more of the weight because my body knew right leg has more muscle, right leg is stronger, so we're going to use it. And, I would never have thought to think of my left foot, oh, I injured my right rec fem because I was flat-footed on my left foot, it wasn't strong enough. And, originally, as I said, I thought that it was the flexibility, I had gone too much into these ranges of motion, pushed myself too much without the strength. I think that was definitely a part of it. That was kind of a lesson that I got from it, of being strong in all your areas and not just trying to build muscle, not just trying to get bigger, but being able to move the body well and it being able to take on these loads and then having a consistent schedule of like running, doing these things that your body's like, oh, we're going to be doing this kind of stuff, so let's get used to it. Like I was doing a little bit of running, but as I said, I wasn't as consistent with my soccer practice as I had been before. And so my body kind of just was like, oh, we're just going to lift weights. And then after that soccer incident, just kind of exacerbated that injury. But anyway, just that was like a really long story of just like my injury kind of thing, whatever. But you know, I'm feeling a lot better now that my body's a bit more adjusted, and it still hurts. My hip still hurts, and down like my thigh still hurts a bit, but it's definitely feeling better. But what I was trying to say, the point that I was trying to make with this was that, you know, it's hard to be prepared for everything, for one. But this kind of thing brought me down to that negative, really dark kind of place again. Like I was like, oh, I can't really walk too much without it flaring up for like 3 days, whatever it was. And I can't really work out because I don't want to rip open my thumb again because I've got to work. And, you know, it just sucks, and I don't want to have to take painkillers again. And the reason I don't want to take painkillers is because I believe like our body has a certain balance, it has a certain rhythm to it. And when you take these kind of drugs and you numb these kind of things, it kind of stops the process of the body. It's like taking off a finger for a while or something. It's like, I don't know how to quite describe it properly, but it's like the body isn't supposed to do that thing. It has this natural process of healing, of caring for itself, and of equilibrium. It always wants to stay in homeostasis. And with our modern lives, we've created this kind of bigger range with all these different foods, these different stimulations. And, you know, you just look at the kids growing up now, like the foods that they eat and the screen time and that they've been given and that they're allowed to have, and just see kind of what they look like. Like a lot of them are really pasty, and they're kind of like all over the place a little bit, like a bit scattered and really ADHD. I don't really believe in the term ADHD. I feel like it's been used way too much and labeled on too many people. I think it's more a result of bad diet and bad kind of discipline. Like, if people were taught to meditate more, if their screen time was limited a bit more growing up, or for anyone that is experiencing ADHD, you know, I think that would drop, like these people wouldn't actually have ADHD. That's a whole another tangent that I'm just coming up with because it's coming as I talk. But of course, once you have ADHD, it's hard to sit down and meditate. It's hard to start these things. So then people kind of need the drug. They need something to kind of settle them down to do that thing. Or they just adapt to this new ADHD brain and they adapt to this hyperstimulation. Like, I used to be really kind of hyperstimulated by things like, as I said, I'm a bit more sensitive. And I would feel overwhelmed by things like I wouldn't talk to people, wouldn't go out to social situations because I felt so overwhelmed by all this kind of stuff. And, you know, I'd be really scattered, you know, especially when I was playing like a lot of FIFA. Like when I was like spending hours and hours or most of the day playing FIFA, my brain would just be fried and I'd be like frantic all over the place, not able to settle or stay still. But, you know, as a result of having this base of discipline, but also being able to meditate and to stick to it, even though it was hard to over the long term and I kept falling off it a lot, it definitely helped me a lot. It's had such a big impact, but it's so subtle. People overhype meditation. It's really subtle and it's going to take a long time for it to take effect. Anyway, I'm going into like tangents today. I'm just going where I feel pulled, which I feel like is a natural part of discussion, a natural part of talking, and a natural part of articulation. You know, as I said, which is why I want to keep doing this, because it's something that I need to work on, because I don't have many places where I can talk like this. I don't really have many people, if any, that I can talk to like this as freely and talk about the topics that I want to. And that's the great thing about being online or posting these videos online and having the opportunity to. So, got off on a tangent. Basically, what I wanted this video to be about, now that you've got through the weeds, sometimes you'll find that a lot of the best parts of my video are towards the end. And I noticed that and I was like, maybe I want to put these parts at the start and try and have my main message, my main things at the start. But then I was like, no, because this is a natural kind of process of me talking, but also if people don't have the attention span to stay and to be disciplined and patient to wait for these moments, then they're not going to actually intake this information. They're just going to be like, they're just looking for that dopamine hit, like, oh yes, that's it, that's what I was looking for. Yes, give me more, like, on to the next video. Yes, like it feels good, but it's not actually making progress. It's not actually giving anything to people. It's not instilling it inside them, these values, these ideas and these concepts that I have discovered through my own kind of experiences. Anyway, so back to what I wanted to say about struggling. Like yesterday when I went on my walk, as I was going to say, you know, I came to this conclusion that, like, why have I kept going on? Why am I still going on? Like, I felt like just killing myself. I was like, maybe I should just go do it now. Like, honestly, that's the thought that popped into my head. That was the only conclusion that my brain came to about how I could get out of this situation, about how I felt about my life at that moment. And, you know, I just had a long shift of work. I haven't had a day off in over a week of work. I've had a couple shorter shifts, so I've had like my morning off or whatever. But when you have work every day, it kind of just takes this toll on you and you just kind of get into this frantic state. And then me not having my outlets of, you know, being able to walk too much or not being able to work out in the morning, and then having trouble sticking to my meditation, not waking up at the same time, you know, sleeping in until the last possible moment, not the last possible moment, but the most manageable moment I could get up to feel okay to go to work, like where I would have time to shower, maybe grab something to eat and then leave. And then my diet started to slip. I wasn't cooking as much because I wasn't in the usual routine of my life that had been like this kind of puzzle pieces fit together, and like you take one piece out and then the system started to kind of crumble. And on reflection, that's a weakness in my part. Like I knew that this injury was going to be something that was going to test me, and I thought that I was going to be up to the challenge. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll just do some drawing, I'll do extra study on my Qigong, maybe I'll do an extra meditation, and I'll just see how I go on walks or whatever. But honestly, I just ended up getting into a TV show, the Flight of the Conchords, which was just a weird one. And, you know, just catching up on other like little shows or episodes. And to be honest, it felt kind of hollow. Like I still do like watching that stuff, but it's like a couple times on the weekend, like a Saturday afternoon and like a Sunday, I'd like catch up on stuff. You know, like I'd watch the soccer and then watch like a couple episodes of something that came out. Like I've been watching a few of the new Welcome to Derry. It's alright. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And then I feel obliged to kind of finish My Hero Academia because that's been like such a big anime in my life, and it's kind of grown as I've grown, which is kind of cool to see. But even like watching that the other day, it kind of felt shallow. And it felt shallow because I knew that there was work that I had to do that I wasn't doing, so I wasn't fully aware, I wasn't fully appreciating what I was watching. And, you know, I kind of took the easy route out. I thought that I'd have the strength to, you know, I was like, oh, I've been working out, so I can just start doing this, I could start drawing a bit more or whatever. And it didn't turn out that way. And I think it was multiple factors, but, you know, things never go exactly the way that you planned. And I've found, you know, going back to meditation, that just being present is something that's so important. Like how I said I felt shallow watching these kind of things because I was escaping, because I was just trying to fill in time. And then I wasn't eating as well. I felt more obliged to kind of just snack or see whatever was in the cupboard and just eat whatever I felt like. And, you know, losing a bit of weight as a cause of that. And, you know, a lot of people want to lose weight, but if you didn't know that, I've been trying to build myself, I've been trying to put on weight, because that's a struggle for me. That's hard, and it takes a lot of focus and attention. And it's kind of frustrating when, like, 3 days of just slipping and that progress can just like completely like derail it. It's like so easy for this thing that you've been building on to just fall apart, which is so frustrating to see. But then it's also like, all right, I've just got to be present and do the best that I can in each moment. And I think another reason why that I wasn't so good when I had these injuries, I had these things holding me back, and I had to change. First of all, it was that I didn't have the habits in place. I didn't have these kind of, I wasn't used to drawing. I didn't know where it would fit in. I didn't really schedule it in. But also, like, what was the other point I was going to make? Not only was I not scheduling it in, but I wasn't in the present moment. I was like, oh, in the future, I'm going to do this. But now I'm just going to relax and do whatever. You can only control yourself in the moment, and the more that you put onto the future self, the more likely you're going to be to procrastinate, because it's like, not only do I have to do those things, but now the washing's like piled up and my room's kind of dirty, and then I haven't been eating well, so now I feel more inclined to eat something bad, etc., etc. It's like this downward spiral, you know. As I said in another video a while back, things are a lot harder to create than they are to destroy. Like, it's easy to destroy. Somebody can spend their lifetime whittling away at this stone to create a statue, and then all it takes is for some random person, anyone, to just come up and just get a hammer and smack it, and then it's destroyed. Which is just like such a shame, but it's like the way of the life. And it makes me think of this quote from my favorite author. All things beautiful are sad because they fade. You know, especially at my age, which I expect a lot of my audience is at, we think that we're going to live forever, that things are going to be like this forever. We don't really think about death. We don't really think about the end of things. And we think, oh yeah, I'm always going to have like this kind of health. I'm going to be able to rebound quickly, even when I have these kind of setbacks. And I'm always going to look good and like have this kind of youthfulish, nice face. But what we forget is that time is going to come for us. And in 10 years, it's going to start to creep up. And then in 20 years, it's going to creep up even more. We're going to start getting more wrinkles. Maybe your hair will go grey. Maybe you'll go bald like me. Anyway, the main idea that I wanted to get across with this video was that you're going to struggle, and it's going to be hard at times. And I just lost it. A lot of people aren't willing to share that they've fucked up, that they're not in the best state of mind, that they, you know, were contemplating suicide the other day, that was the thought that came up in their head. That was the only solution that their brain came up with. And these thoughts and emotions are just transitory. But on social media, we don't like to show these kind of sides, and I think it's really important to show these sides and to admit that we're struggling, that whatever, because a lot of the people that we idolize, a lot of the content that we idolize it's kind of toxic when you think about it, because it's really extreme, it's really polarizing, and some of it's quite unrealistic. And when we watch it, when we spend so much time watching it, and then since it gets so much attention, it gets even more exacerbated, it gets even bigger, it gets even crazier. It becomes less and less realistic, and it just creates these kind of dissonance between who we are and where we want to be and where we think we should be and where we think other people are. And, you know, I think it's a very positive thing to admit your faults, to admit some of your failures, and to say that you're not doing well. I'm not saying this in like this some kind of like overly like feminine kind of male wave, femboy, whatever kind of thing, where it's like, oh, I'm so emotional and I feel so bad. It's like, you've got to be responsible for it. You've got to take accountability for these things, because nobody's going to come in and fix it for you. Nobody was going to come in and help me. Like, I was there by myself. You know, nobody was going to stop me from doing anything. And all that was just this little will inside me after I just let it sit. I just let the thoughts sit. That I just got to keep going, you know. That, you know, even though it feels like it's such a long struggle, that it's such a long haul up to be successful, to be richer, to have content that more people watch, to reach the physique that I've been trying to get for ages, to be able to play soccer that I want to, and, you know, just be healthy and fit and kind of these things. And as I said, we always think that the journey is going to be easy, that it's going to be A to B, a few setbacks along the way, but then it's going to be like smooth, easy rides, and it never is. Anyway, I think I've prattled on quite a bit on this video. Maybe a kind of reflection of how many insights I've had this week and how much I feel like I need to unload. But I sincerely do appreciate the people that do watch this video, even if it's fewer than other channels, just because I don't get my ideas across as well, or because I don't speak as well. I really appreciate it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Next video. 21 minutes, jeez.